Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Third Space Podcast, episode number 69. Nice. Go hug yourself. This episode has two parts. In the first part, Daniel talks about his recent experience as an assistant director of a play at his school. So he talks a little bit about what that experience was like, and then the play itself was an absurdist play. So we talk about absurdism a little bit, what it is, what are some examples of absurdism in popular culture or entertainment, and why do people like absurdism? That's an interesting little bit of conversation. And then I have an article that I found entertaining, to say the least, and I read the article. It's about hugs. So Daniel and I discuss the importance of hugs. We both have interesting opinions on the matter and on this particular type of article. So with that, it's time for this episode to begin. Please enjoy.
Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, good day.
Ahoy.
We both said hello very casually at the same time, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Does the greeting hello, like, did it calm you? Did it?
It made me. Made me feel seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't see you, but I heard you.
Well, I felt seen, and that's what
Yeah,
matters.
yeah. Your lived experience.
Yes.
So I can't deny it.
Nope. What's new? What's new in Daniel land?
I just on Sunday closed out the show. I was an assistant director for a high school production of an absurdist
I've heard of that.
theater.
That was a movie, right? A really famous movie. High School Musical?
It was a
High school
play.
theater?
It wasn't a musical. It's a high school theater. It's the non-musical version.
That came out years ago, didn't it?
Yeah, it like my ninth grade students might consider
This
High
is a
School
remake.
Musical like yeah, they might consider it retro. Just to put that, and you would think of it as like you pop culture kids with your High School Musical.
It just came out, like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, they'd actually see it as retro or like something they heard of when they were little. Anyway, yeah, so I was an assistant director for a play, so now I wear my beret everywhere and carry
Right,
around
of
that
course.
chair that kind of collapses on me sometimes, but I
you
feel
have
really
you
important.
have one of those snapboard things. What do they call those?
I've been
Clappers or whatever.
Clappers, that's it.
Whenever
yeah. So I go
class
around
starts,
clapping.
you're really pushing the envelope for clappers, and whenever your English class starts, now you get up front and you snap it.
And I go, and action, and then I start teaching.
Please turn
Like
your
I'm just
dictionaries
silently
to-
doing nothing. I have my back turned to them, and then I go, and action, I clap, and then I turn around and I go, oh, hi. Anyway.
Oh, hi, class.
What I want to ask you about is this production of this play it's one of the more famous plays from theater of the absurd, this sort of 1950s movement built on the philosopher Albert Camus, this French philosopher. It looks like Camus by Camus. He did the Myth of Sisyphus. Are you familiar with the Myth of Sisyphus?
Is that the one with the guy pushing the rock up the hill?
Yep, and it just keeps rolling down like the dung beetles,
Yeah.
pushing poop up the hill, and it rolls back down. And and so it's just the pointlessness, the absurdity of life.
Right.
But it kind of is a reaction. So I don't want to give a history lesson or whatever, but it's like influenced by surrealism and Dadaism, and like these people came along and said life is pointless and it's miserable and it's woeful and it's terrible. Well, the absurdist said, yeah, I agree, life is pointless and absurd, but in that pointlessness there's a freedom and the sense of humor about it. Like it's both dark and weird and funny, and so why not revel in it and kind of like really heighten the bizarreness of it. And so when you have a play, a theater of the absurd type play, it resists, these are the characteristics. It resists narrative form. It's intentionally, almost like if you're an old man that couldn't hear or see well and you squinted, you go, that's a play. Yeah, that's a couple, and it looks familiar. There's a couple on a couch starting to argue, but there are moments that are absolutely like acid trippy, or and even the dialogue might be contradictory, or the characterization, it resists narrative form.
Do you have any example of, in wider culture?
Waiting for Godot, and I would actually say it influences a lot of our. It influences humor that we know today. You could almost call it like the idea of a jokeoid, like it resembles a joke. It feels like a joke. It's here's the part to laugh because you said it in a weird way and with a lot of pageantry around it, but it wasn't a laugh out, or it wasn't the formula of a joke.
What was that that show? It was. I'm thinking
Robot Chicken.
Oh, Robot Chicken could be. What about I'm thinking Bill and Ted, but it's not Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, right?
You're thinking
I'm thinking of the two.
The two guys. And it was also
it's free real estate.
Excellent job.
Great job.
Yeah, awesome show, great job.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Those
now
people.
That you've got Bill and Ted in my head.
I know. I couldn't think of the actual people, but you know
awesome
what I'm. Those guys.
Great. Tim and Eric.
Eric.
Awesome show, great job. Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I would say yes. I would say they lean into the humor element. There are usually an absurdist playwright would also it'd be heavy and okay. So the absurdist playwright is willing to make you uncomfortable and make you miserable.
Even some of the cut-in jokes from like Family Guy or something are absurdist, right? Like the doorbell rings and he opens it and it's like, a T-Rex or something and it eats him. Like, that's absurdist. Right?
Yes. Do you recall, like, in 2010 maybe, and maybe even up till now, I mean, your pop culture knowledge is so low that this might feel really relevant to you, but, like, everyone would say, that's so random, and, like, this idea of random, was that definitely linked with absurdism. So, but I would say that, like, and the show we produced, we leaned into the comedy elements, but a real absurdist play would probably make you uncomfortable, confused, and you'd laugh, and you'd be a little terrified, and you'd have an experience that is bewildering holistically. And like this play, I don't see why I wouldn't say the title. It's called The Bald Soprano, and its subtitle is
Mafia
Anti-Play.
It's a mafia show on TV. You adapt that show? I never saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was absurdist.
The Bald Sopranos, like an excellent HBO series, really launched them, put them on the map as far as like gritty entertainment. No, that's not it. I don't think.
I really love how often I can use that flavor of joke, though. That really that makes me happy.
Yeah, but I lost my train of thought on
Bald
that.
Sopranos.
Yes. Oh, the subtitle is anti-play or anti-play.
Anti-play.
And so, and like I find that. My question for you, I guess, is like, does the idea tickle you? Do you find it pretentious? Like when you watch the plays, they're not just delightful romps and funny humor. In fact, like sometimes you might even find it devoid of humor and just like again, like emphasis on the bewildering and like just weird for weird's sake kind of thing, as meant to be some sort of social commentary on the absurdity of life and the ritualistic nature of our suburban dread, that kind of stuff.
Right. So let's see if I can, how I can think, what are my thoughts on this? On absurdism in general, I can understand.
Like hipsters eat it up kind of thing.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can understand if you believe that nothing matters, and because nothing matters, action A is, in the end, equivalent to action B, which is equivalent to action C. No action you take truly has any particular import, so why not amuse yourself by doing the most absurd and unexpected thing? That is
yes.
The absurdist claim, right?
Yes.
I can understand that, even though I don't agree with the premise that nothing matters and all actions are equivalent, but I can appreciate kind of taking an absurd and unexpected action for amusement's sake. I think there are valuable things in existence and in life, and humor and amusement are two of those things, among many others. And so it's worthwhile to think outside of the box or do something kind of absurd simply to enrich the experience that we all have. So that's one thing. And I'll give you a personal example. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before or not, but my first job was I worked in a restaurant, and I started there when I was like 16 washing dishes. And by the time I left, it was after college, and I was waiting tables. On my last day, waiting tables in this restaurant, I decided to be really weird. Why did I decide to be really weird? I don't know, because it amused me. It was absurd, but
So what sort of things did you do?
I found it deeply funny. So I walked backwards through the dining room the whole night. I just walked backwards everywhere I went.
Consistently? You just walked backwards?
I didn't react like I was walking backwards or whatever. I just pretended like that was normal, and I just walked backwards to all of my tables.
Did you announce to some buddies, some
didn't
fellow
tell any-
waiters, like, I'm going to do this,
No,
and I'm
I
going to be really
didn't.
weird tonight?
That was the point, is that it was just going to be absurd.
And for you, in some way, it's like your own private show of weirdness where
Yeah.
you're not. Yeah.
And
yeah.
we had, those big pepper grinders, when people order salads or whatever, and you
yeah.
grind the pepper. And with one of my table, usually you say, "Oh, would you like some pepper?" And they say, "Oh, yes, please." And you go, and they say, "Okay, thanks."
Right.
And then you stop.
Say when.
Say when, right? And instead, I started grinding the pepper, and then I started having a casual conversation about how, the menu is really good tonight. You're gonna love our, whatever this entree is, blah 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 blah. And I just kept talking and kept doing the pepper until there was, and she kept saying, "When, stop, that's enough pepper." And I just kept peppering, and there was a huge black tower of pepper on the salad. They were laughing.
That's
of
a little
course.
bit risky too. Yeah.
They were nice people, and they were laughing. And I had another salad, obviously waiting and ready to swap it out. I wasn't going to ruin their dinner. But stuff like that, and it was absurd, but it was deeply amusing to me. So, do you think that does that fit into kind of this category? Obviously, I could have, if I didn't care about social, or if I didn't care more about social norms, or if I didn't care about making people uncomfortable, I could have been, I could have brought in other aspects of absurdism other than just humor. I could have dropped my pants in the middle of the dining room and done the hokey pokey or something, and that would have been absurd, but would have engendered different feelings, namely arousal in the patrons, rather than just amusement.
Amusement, arousal, it's all fair game
Yeah.
and absurdism. I think this fits in the same. Okay, so I'll tell you about one of my favorite moments in watching the process. So the director, he kind of was in a headspace where he was indulging his whims and wanted to pepper
And he
stories,
peppered it, and he'd never stopped.
Peppered in jokes and moments of amusement. So there was a fire chief, and we had this like oversized fire helmet to sort of emphasize how goofy this particular character was. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment where the family, the fire chief has gone into the home and is sitting on the couch, and then they all kiss the helmet. They all take his helmet, kind of adoring this, hero, and kissing the helmet. Well, we placed a smaller helmet underneath the big giant helmet. So unbeknownst to the audience for this whole, and then it was just a smaller helmet. And when we actually performed this for the first time, we had to the director, who made up the joke himself, and in non-ironic fashion, just starts like he starts laughing, jumps up, can't find, like, he needed to find a table, and like the actors actually stopped, which they're not supposed to do, but this was such an outrageous reaction, and like is belly laughing and starts hitting the table and goes, "I can't handle this," like, and it was actually a sincere moment. It wasn't
while they were performing it.
Yes. This is not the opening night of the show, but this is just a rehearsal, right? And so he's just, and he goes, "I can't handle this," and like. He goes, "That's good. Oh my God." He goes, "It's so dumb." And that made all of us laugh when he said it's so dumb. And like, that was a delightful moment of there's no like
I've
why is
seen,
that so funny?
I've seen that joke.
It's a gag.
Yeah, I've seen that
Yeah.
gag elsewhere. Like, what? Where was it? I don't know. Some stupid
It
internet
feels
video.
familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Though, like it feels
some
familiar. There's something about it. It's like vaguely familiar. It's not like he
yeah.
invented. It wasn't this creative genius, and I don't think he was trying to be. He was like, you know, the gag like of where you have something smaller that resembles it. I feel like there's some
Well,
iteration of
I
that
saw
joke
something
that
of
is
like
repeated.
some like street troll guy or something put a big bucket over his head and went and like ooga booga 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 to people on the sidewalk and banging the bucket or something, and someone got mad and yanked the bucket off his head, and there's another one, smaller one underneath, and then he ran off or
Yeah,
something, and that's the
yeah.
same joke, and that makes me laugh right there. So
Yes.
it's
And
unexpected. I mean that's what the underlying thing is, right? It's the unexpected that makes you go ha ha, and maybe that's a key part of humor in general.
I think so. That twist, that turn, that pivot from expectations. I mean, there's humor can either be like a build towards some social taboo. That's why taboo subjects or cursing or dirty jokes are amusing. I think is because we're not supposed to talk about it, and here it
Yeah.
is being talked about it, and then the joke allows for that release. But I also just think that the misdirection or the subversion of expectations is hilarious. But then like, are we in a realm where absurdism is everything? And I don't. This is a very specific and short-lived movement in terms of theater of the absurd, as cataloged by like historians of theater. I suppose.
I can see why that would be the case.
Well, my question is, why are we like? So the Bald Soprano, Waiting for Godot. Those are the two. Like, there's lots. There's several others. There's a handful of others. But like, if you were to Google absurdist plays, I bet you those two would pop up. And my point, that like, isn't there something ironically, like,
Catcher in the Rye. Catcher in the Rye is absurd. To Kill a Mockingbird.
No, no,
It's absurdist. Have you ever read it? It's like, what is
not.
going on?
Yeah. Neither of those things are. Yes, I've read it, and that's not true. Like,
I just know those are
you
two.
sound like a
two
ninth
of your,
grader who hasn't like talking about a book, just saying like.
I know those
what
are
is-
two
have
of
you
your
read that book?
favorites. So it's
Yeah,
just,
I do like those. Have you ever read them? It's like, what is going on? Hot take on the novel.
I mean, who's named Atticus? And
Yeah,
It's
who
like
is this catcher? And why is he
Finch.
in some rye? You know.
it's about a baseball player.
So the play, though, when I first read it, it was a frustrating read, and I think intentionally so. Like, the story goes something like he was learning to speak English, and he had one of these translation books, and here are phrases you need to know. Where is the bathroom? Please give me more paprika, and just silly phrases like that. And he thought, wow, this is absurd, and he also was reeling from post-war being messed up and stuff. So he writes this weird play that borrows heavily from like chopped up phrases and the so there's a few other markers of absurdism, is like an inability to communicate, constantly attempting to, but an inability to do so. So this one had like an emphasis on the words and the failure. So their conversations just felt like everyone calling them conversations. It's like, yes, it's sustained monologues at each other that and sustained is even weird, like sustained in terms of time, but not in terms of content. Just back and forth of like mind numbing and trying. So for me as an assistant director, I view my job as understanding the director's vision and then helping that vision come to fruition in meaningful ways. That's how I kind of framed all right, those are my goals, I'll say. So then you read this play and it makes no damn sense. And then like making that no damn sense come to fruition and trying to like coach or help the actors, like how should you read this line? And it's like, the Pope elopes, the Pope's got bespoke no horoscope, and like, okay, like those are I didn't get that exactly right. It's the Pope's
matter.
got no horoscope, the horoscope's bespoke, the Pope elopes. So that's the line, and it's like, okay. And some of it, and clearly there's some playfulness with words, but if you were to say, like, Bennett, how should I deliver this line? It's like, oh, man. But in the greater context, it's like they're fighting, so you can pretend it's a fight. You can not just pretend, but, like, envision a specific fight, And this is where the director was good. It's like, okay, it's Thanksgiving dinner, and your relative has just uttered some nonsense politically, and, now engage as if things are escalating. So then the
The
dialogue
Pope has a
is like,
horoscope.
yeah, exactly, and that's kind of how it would happen, and so
The Pope's bespoke.
Well, and I will like the director is a really like he's good at what he does, and the fact that I respect him and the kids respected him, so he had the authority necessary, I think, to make a play like this happen. Because I think if you were to just like if it were my first year at a startup school and they somehow said you're going to direct this play, Daniel, oh gosh, and like I wouldn't have the authority to pull that play off. You'd have to give me something very, very normal, like
and boring,
like Romeo
like
and Juliet,
Catcher in the Rye.
Like, yeah, yeah, To Kill a
To Kill a
Mockingbird.
Mockingbird. Yeah, something lame about hunting.
It's like that should be like you just only reference those two books anytime we're talking like
I kind of do.
Or you kind of do.
Those two in the dictionary.
You know what? I kind of do too. Like that's just
Yeah, that's what English teachers do. That's part of the joke.
yeah. Okay, enough about all that.
So other examples of absurdism, like Whose Line Is It Anyway, brings in absurdism, a lot, or used to, and that was really funny. Did you see the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once All at the Same Time Simultaneously, or whatever it was called?
I want to see it, but no, I've not seen it. I've heard it's like a visual treat and that the narrative is interesting.
I haven't seen it either, but I've heard about it, and it sounds like there are aspects of absurdism to that piece of cinema.
Yeah, the way they talk about it is it was short-lived but had a long last. Like its influence is it's just intertwined in the zeitgeist. I'll say.
Right.
Yeah, the diaspora. I heard that word the other day. Like, every time I hear the word diaspora, I go, "What does that mean?" And
It's like a stomach condition, I think.
No, pretty funny.
Yeah. So based on your description, I'm gently pro absurdist. Every now and then, little absurdist entertainment, won't miss the mark.
What I think though is framing it as like this sort of a delightful romp into weird stuff, and all of that sounds appealing. But when you actually experience, I think it's almost like designed. There's an intentional off-putting nature of absurdism that is meant to alienate the audience. Like there are efforts meant to do that.
Sure.
I think.
Well, I mean, in a way, it is a kind of subversion, right? Like
Yes.
our current time, current year, really current decades, MO is subversion. It is taking the narratives and stories that have been popular and well loved forever, and subverting them, kind of destroying them or dismantling them, or the positive way to frame it would be like titillating and delighting the audience by giving them something they didn't expect. But when that thing that you didn't expect is essentially punching you in the face or tearing down something that you love, then it's not so great. And that's kind of been what the a lot of entertainment has moved towards. And absurdism is kind of like if subversion, that full subversion, like Game of Thrones or the Disney Star Wars movies, if that's going all the way and really destroying, then absurdism is kind of like this middle ground where you don't have an interest in destroying, but you don't have an interest in preserving. You're just going crazy.
Yes, I think that's a fair way to put it, because subversion is a narrative. I'm going to deconstruct your narrative and go in the opposite direction, which is a direction to go. And absurdism's like, I'm not interested in direction. I see that you have direction, and I will not do that. I will like avoid that.
Yeah, you thought Luke Skywalker was brave, courageous, and moral hero. Well, actually, he's a deadbeat loner old man drinking green milk on an island. That's subversion. But absurdism would have been, no, actually, Luke is a Wookiee, and he was wearing a human suit the whole time, and he plays the accordion, a Jedi accordion, for a living, or whatever.
Yes. Actually, I would say absurdism, like you're pulling from too many elements within the Star Wars universe. It would be like he's
Elon Musk's brother or something.
Yeah. It's like it because what you would describe might even be like funny by design. I don't know, because of the familiarity. I don't know. So here's my question. I think subversion is interesting, and I think that absurdism, if it subverts too much, then it gets a movement. So like Eugene Ionesco gets labeled as an absurdist playwright, and we do his plays over and over, and it has some sort of fan base that loves it. Like, haven't we like formed a pretty cohesive narrative around
that's the
the
thing.
work?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like when you said that, the absurdist movement was relatively brief, that makes sense, right? Because you pigeonhole yourself really fast. Like when all you're doing is random, like, yeah, that may be appealing when you're embedded within a context of expectation, but when you just blow it all up and everything is random, then nothing matters anymore, and it's not going to draw your attention for very long. I mean, that's why I think a lot of people got tired of like the Family Guy type thing where the Kraken would burst in and tear the house apart and whatever in one scene, and then the commercial would come and you'd be back to normal, and people were just like, Family Guy humor,
Yeah, it's tiring, it's exhausting, because it's not connected enough, and we do crave connection. I mean, it reminds me of a college when I was studying poetry, and I came across Gertrude Stein's Tinder Buttons, and it was like...
We've discussed that on this podcast, right? We did some Gertrude Stein a long time ago.
And when that happened, I laughed. I mean, do you remember? I think I called you from the library, and was like, we were like in tears, like reading these, and then I think you maybe like had to go write some yourself.
I had to go make some.
I gotta go do. Which is a real response, by the way.
Sure.
But I think part of our humor is like, this is considered good.
I can't believe this is real. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I could in fact replicate this, and that's the thing about like some
rap,
some artistic movements, and and rap, and
like country pop. I mean, it's clear if I can replicate it, then it doesn't deserve to be what it is.
I think there's some truth if little old Bennett or little old Daniel, like, who has no vested interest in that, can replicate it to the degree that it's like indistinguishable from that which is celebrated, then why are we celebrating it?
That's why I like abstract art that's just some splatters and stuff. Like, that's why I don't respect that kind of art. But maybe it looks cool. I mean, maybe Bennett's rap song, Lil Bennett, sounds good and has a nice beat to it and a nice hook. It's really lit. But that doesn't mean really it's respectable. I mean,
it's iconic. That word is really, how people were saying epic, now they're saying iconic. Just say no.
Really?
It's really iconic. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And slay. Slay is another
term. I know
term
slay. Slay queen.
Oh, do you know 8? Like, that
eight, the number.
You ate Bennett. No, like you consumed it. Like you really devoured it. Like Bennett,
no,
you
I'm
ate.
Not, no, you're messing with me, right?
No, I'm very serious about this one. I've been talking with some kids about slang recently. I'm like, I'm pretty out of it. So, but yeah,
I've not heard that at all, and I'm a little. I kind of think you're messing with me, and that makes me.
I'm really not.
That makes me kind of excited. Like, I feel like you could do a really a funny fake slang thing with me.
Well, I had to catch myself with like a kid's like after one performance. So the cast was double cast, and one was watching the other performance. It was two groups. So there was like we didn't label them A or B, and the talent was dispersed, and they were all fantastic. Whatever. But like A cast went, then B, then A, then B. But like a B cast, while observing A, went, just, you really ate tonight, and like it's not. They delivered that as a compliment to an individual that I overheard, and it was not ironic. And every time, even though I know that that's slang, it doesn't land naturally for me.
No,
like
that
when they go,
stupid.
Slay, that lands natural. I mean, it's dumb sounding, yes, but like I intuit it. Like it just like, slay. Yeah, that was awesome, cool. Like that all fits. But going, you ate tonight, I go, what? Like,
8 out of 10.
I have to translate it.
Pretty good.
You ate. Oh, like someone whose grammar isn't quite right. You ate like a sexy girl. You ate tonight.
You 8 out of 10, girl.
Yeah, you ate. Yeah.
You ain't 7. You 8.
Okay. Funny. You 7. You 8. You 7. Like angrily. You a 6 max. You 6 max. Anyway.
Mid. That's one, right? I've heard that one.
Mid is one.
Mid.
And
Back to just really briefly back to absurdism. I think I know a way to. It's one of my great ideas of my life. I think I know a way to get absurdism without totally losing the care, you know, and that is my famous idea of genre twist. Which I don't know if I brought up on the podcast before, but it's where take a series like The Office. It's a comedy and it's kind of goofy, and then for the twist, the finale, you no longer make it comedy. You make it dead serious, dramatic. Someone has a heart attack. Not like Stanley has a heart attack in the actual thing, but they play it totally straight, and there's no humor. Or like Dwight dies in a car accident or something, and you play it totally straight.
We're well into a drama, yeah.
Yes, very dramatic
twist,
territory.
twist,
Or
yeah.
the converse, it's a dramatic show. It's Breaking Bad, or it's the Bald Sopranos, or whatever it is, mafia movie, and you make it into a comedy, or you genre twist it, make it a mystery, whatever. Like there we go. That throws a wrench into things, but it's still the characters. In love.
A musical episode or
yeah,
something.
It's disrespectful to the audience for sure, but it's not as disrespectful as total subversion or just total meaningless absurdism.
Yeah. So absurdism is best when you peppered in versus doing a whole absurdist, and even that's actually maybe why I found it delightful to work on. I actually had a really good experience, and I think that's because it was part of my life, but it wasn't my whole life. I wouldn't want my whole life to be absurdism. Like, gosh,
No,
what a terrible. Yeah, no one would, I don't think. So, yeah.
Huh. Well, so that's your first of many play experiences?
I really liked it, but and it was also absolutely daunting in terms of time commitment. But the kids just they're my cup of tea. Like,
I don't know. Theater kids are weird, man.
Yes, they are. They're sensitive and they're dramatic and I just really like it.
Yeah. Sure.
That shouldn't surprise you that I
No,
really
it
do
doesn't.
just
That
like
doesn't
this sort
surprise
of
me.
performative, sincere, weird. Also, I just appreciate that they, for the most part, kind of exist outside of like that sort of high school hierarchy of just annoying, like, where do you stand
right.
in terms of. Like, and people are always concerned where they're at, and these are kids that sort of are like, not
they're already at the bottom, so it doesn't matter.
There's freedom
There's freedom. There's nothing to lose, kind of. I see what you're saying.
But I think I don't think it's entirely true.
I hear you, loud and clear.
But I like that so even like ninth graders and seniors are having to work on stuff together too, and I think that's really healthy that they're working as colleagues and not as like you're at the another
Right.
And so I really liked it. I didn't get paid for it.
Well, that sucks.
It does for that amount of work,
For a lot
and
of
that degree
time,
of dedication, and and like so.
Well, the experience was pay enough, and I'm sure that when this, it was a big theater event the first time. It was in the movie theaters and everything. So this one, when it comes out, I'm sure it'll make millions, and they'll compensate you on the back end. I'm sure your contract included some royalties or something. Can't wait to see your name in the credits.
Yeah, man.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with regards to the play experience?
Never. No, I'm done. That is it.
All right. I have a short article that I found that very very striking. I want to read it to you and get your thoughts on this article. So this is an article from August of 2020. The reason I'm bringing such an old article to you is because I actually heard the claim made in this article recently, and I wanted to know where it came from. And I think this is the origin, or at least refers to the origin. So anyway, the article is entitled, "Are You Getting Enough Hugs?"
Huh.
Are you getting enough hugs? Virginia... Virginia Satir, a world-renowned family therapist, is famous for saying, "We need 4 hugs a day for survival." We need 8 hugs a day for maintenance. We need 12 hugs a day for growth. How many hugs are you getting each day? With social distancing, dramatically reduced human contact, and more digital than physical interactions, many of us are running short on hugs. These extra measures to keep ourselves healthy is causing mental and emotional health problems, lost productivity at work, reduced intimacy and trust, increased anger and aggression, and that's just the start. As leaders, it's essential that we take this seriously. The more emotionally and mentally balanced we are, the more we can help our teams to become so. So let's look at why humans need hugs, and then we'll look at strategies to get more. This is an article in Forbes, by the way.
Okay.
So 4 reasons why humans need hugs. Number 1, hugs strengthen your immune system and balance your body. A hug results in some pressure on your sternum, which then stimulates the thymus gland, which then regulates and balances the body's production of white blood cells, which keeps you healthy. Hugs help increase circulation and help balance our sympathetic, aka fight, flight, freeze, and parasympathetic, aka rest and digest nervous systems. All good. Number 2, hugs increase your feelings of safety. Hugs emotionally feed us, help us remember that we're not alone, help us feel more trust with others. Ever notice how relaxed you feel after a juicy hug?
Yeah.
Hugs remind us that we're with others, and together we can face any challenge.
Did you say juicy, just to be clear?
I said juicy. I said
Okay,
it,
keep
and
going.
I'm proud of it.
A juicy hug sounds gross.
Number 3, hugs increase your feelings of belonging. Hugs boost oxytocin levels, which heal feelings of loneliness, isolation, and anger. Hugging is a shared experience. You're both giving and receiving affection. Nice. Number 4, hugs increase your feelings of mattering, self-esteem, being
They're
seen,
all like the same reason.
and self-love.
Self-love, yes.
Extended hugging, 20 seconds or more, boosts your serotonin levels, causing you to feel happy and more positive emotions overall. When you see another person look at you with the kindness and affection, you remember that you're loved, just like you did as a child when your parents looked at you and acknowledged you were here and they were happy you were. So here are 3 suggestions this article gives on how to get more hugs.
Okay.
Number
ready.
1, ask others. Get a hug buddy. If you live with others, this is easy. Start keeping a daily tally and find out what number of hugs makes you feel most at peace. If you live alone, get a hug buddy. This is a buddy that observes the same social distancing and pandemic protocols that you do. It's essential to be able to relax into a delicious hug. Set times when you'll get together for hugs. You can also sit back to back on the ground and lean against one another for an extended period of time. You could be reading or talking during this time. Number 2.
Wait, that counts as a hug? I
don't know. It's Forbes. They're the experts. Number 2, hug and or sleep with your pet. Yes, this is not
really?
the same as hugging a human, but still it's contact with another
Good
living thing.
observation, Forbes.
So go for it. Many people I know are breaking the rules and letting their dog sleep on the bed now. Throw a special dog blanket on top to protect your bedding and snuggle up. And number 3, the final one, hug yourself. This may sound silly, but it works. Remember, the goal is oxytocin and serotonin release, so you may want to turbocharge this experience by listing all the things you love about yourself. This is about mental and emotional health, friends, and yours is more important than ever with the extended pandemic and continued uncertainty. So this is the thing. This is an article.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your thoughts on this article. The claim that I heard was that humans need 8 hugs a day, and I was like, that sounds like really something else. I need to find out where this originated from. And
It's hilarious.
And it seems that it came from this particular therapist who said we need 4 hugs a day for survival. So
Yeah.
So I just want to ask, how many hugs do you get a day?
Well, that's a very personal question.
Yeah, well,
I do get a hug a day. I do hug every day.
Do you get 4 hugs a day?
No.
Well, then you're a dead man. You are a dead man, my friend.
I want to give it a gracious reading because I think we can obviously mock
Sure.
the idea of, but I'm still struck by a couple of things.
Yes.
So like I'm the audience for an article like this. I agree with it in this vague metaphorical sense, and like physical contact is important, and it's another avenue of showing our humanity. To the specificity of hugs is interesting, and no comment on the quality of hugs or sincerity of hugs. Like there was a bit on the length, and I appreciated that it got to that.
Or the participants, really.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you're just saying, also you can hug your dog. Like, well, why not? What can you hug?
I mean,
something
the
warm
article
and soft.
The article literally ended with what I think sums it all up. Go hug yourself.
Yeah,
And,
go hug yourself.
and that's it.
It made me that ending made me think of I'm blanking on the term where you fill in the blank. We all choose
Masturbate?
a bunch of words. you choose where it's the game
Oh,
where you
Mad
just give me a
Libs.
bunch of Mad Libs,
Similar.
and you just
Similar but
and
different.
and you change similar but different. You substitute hug with a lot of different, like whatever
Yeah,
you
right.
want, and it could be a pretty funny article, but also like the F word would be pretty funny, like, you know.
How many chili dogs do humans require a day? That's absurdist, right?
Yeah. And then, but the go chili dog yourself, you know. It's so funny. You're gonna laugh at this because if the takeaway is like to contemplate the I'll say utility, but the holistic, like hugs are nice. I'm gonna try and give this a genuine reading. Hugs are nice. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of being more intentional. I'm wondering if like, is there a place for the professional hug or the friend
Sure.
but not that close of a friend hug? Or
Obviously,
like,
it's all about that serotonin and oxytocin. So, there's pressure on the sternum. Anyone can do that.
I don't believe. Well, that's the thing is I think we're just like physical. Physical contact is and intimacy and joy. I believe in all of that, and I'd have a hard time even. I mean, I think that's just. Do people not believe that physical contact can elevate mood when done appropriately and like show care and like there's something very even people if you don't like to be touched there's a reason maybe it's too intense or there's a discomfort or this is too intimate and doesn't belong, like there's an admission if you feel a certain way that like it's powerful, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah. I mean, so like, to giving it a charitable read, you really have to chop out most of the article, which is
yes.
Hugs are nice sometimes. That's it. That's what I agree with. Yeah, hugs are nice sometimes.
I'm also I guess offended is a strong word, but like I'm so tired of here's something that is good and let me prove it to you by science and saying I bet you could take a handful of 15 words that even I could start to say whether it's fight or flight or whatever and just start citing them in this blurry head spinny way that makes no sense and cite
that.
I don't know.
That's my primary complaint with this article, and I think this article represents a gigantic class of articles that we are bombarded with today, which is total and utter pseudoscience. Let's be clear, the entire field of social psychology is there's what they call a replication crisis right now, which the number is absurd. It's like 50% of all social psychology can't be replicated. And so like really it's a coin toss as to whether any study you read is bunk or not. Like that's the dire situation of social psychology right now. And then we have an entire class of articles written by idiots based on these studies that are coin tosses, and this is what you get. You get what's this person's name? Christine Coma Ford. It's a great name because I want to go into a coma after reading it.
It's so sugary sweet.
She likes
saccharine.
hugs. She likes hugs, and she wants to prove how sweet and saccharine hugs are. And so she went and found some words like oxytocin and serotonin and dumped
It
them
does. It feels
into
like a
an
ninth
article.
grade student wrote it. Is what it feels. That wrote
Yeah.
a good piece for a ninth grade student. Who said, "I'm gonna back it and really prove that hugs
Yeah,
are great."
right. And it totally like oxytocin and serotonin, you can't just say the words. Like you have to provide a mechanism. And why I think this particular example is dumb is because it's not just pressure on the sternum. Oh, it releases oxytocin and serotonin, it makes you feel nice. Like so much detail is elided by saying that. Like
Yes.
when you what
Yes.
why is a hug nice? It's not the physical sensation purely. It's the connection you have with the hugger and the huggy, right?
Yes. It's
That's
a link between the physical and the emotional. It's
it's
that link
it
precisely. Like it's
in
a
the same
relationship.
in the same way that our normal boring existence is made interesting by some absurdism tossed in, our normal non-physical contact existence as we go through our day is made pleasant by this brief moment of intimate physical contact. And so it gives us this little jolt of pleasure when we're doing this thing that we don't normally do with most of our time in the day, right? Like that's part of it. It's a psychological effect, not a physical one. And this article, like it either dwelt on the physical response, which is totally unsubstantiated, and then listed three essentially identical BS claims about self-love and feeling seen and buzzwords that have no definitions
Yeah.
at all. So,
Hug buddy.
hug buddy, hug buddy.
Yeah,
Maybe I
anyway,
should.
just
Well,
get
like,
yourself a hug buddy.
yeah. I mean, I just found it preposterous. Four for survival. You're dead and you're married and you like people. So think about me, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You haven't had a hug in a while, probably.
I was trying
Like,
to,
when was
I was trying to think. Right, how many hugs do I get a year if we're doing
I probably surpass it in a week,
an annual
and I'm
hug?
dead.
Annual hug quota for me
We
is
don't hug. I hug my friends. I don't hug you, and
I don't.
you're a friend, so
Yeah,
to be clear. But like I hug like other people, but I don't.
I
You know.
probably like I hug when I go home for Christmas. I hug my family, but that means like my mom, my aunts, my grandma. I mean, that's probably like I probably hug my mom when I arrive and when I leave. I mean, we're pushing 10 a year.
Yeah, you can estimate with a reasonable accuracy 10 hugs a year for you. Yeah.
So how dead am I? I mean, this like
Very dead.
my experience that experience this lady Virginia Satir, the world-renowned family therapist, who we should I'm sure you've heard of her. We should obviously take her word on this. But like, I must be in really dire mental health straits, you know? Like, I'm almost dead. I didn't know how close I was to death. I thought the closest I've ever been to death was like getting struck by lightning or falling down a mountain
Well,
or something, but it's actually hug starvation.
it's it's I'm trying to think of, these some of these studies that'll say like if you smile then you become happier, and there's some study about putting pencils in your. I mean, all this I guess I should question more, given, like you said, it's up in the air and it could be a coin toss of whether it's legitimate or not. But some study, I think it was Harvard, did like put pencils in people's mouths, sideways, which caused them to smile, as it kind of like
Yeah.
you literally just physically doing the act, and then they reported on being happier, and it was reinforcing the idea that you do fake it till you make it kind of thing. You fake it till you become it attitude. And so I imagine, the reason I'm connecting this is I imagine, as someone who's receptive to hugs, enjoys a good hug, and like if the article, I walk away and go like, maybe I want to have another hug, like maybe I should be more intentional about getting more hugs in my life. I could see it moving my happiness line, at least temporarily. I'd probably like level out if I really did reach a new norm of 4 a day. I think pretty quickly it would there'd be a spike in my like happiness, if that's measurable, or at least my self-reported happiness, that would even out. But even all of that, this is the most gracious reading. There's something dark about me going, come on, Bennett, like why can't we just maybe it pushes people to engage in a few more hugs. But like what it's doing is it's saying I can make social claims about the world and the way we should function and not have to like have it be backed by anything serious or substantive. That's dangerous because that means we
It
can
is
socially
dangerous.
manipulate. We can just start creating narratives that sound plausible in some way. Throw out some junk science and to back it up, and then like start shaping cultural norm. Like these are culture shifting. If you get a bajillion of these clickbaity things, then like you have a culture shift
Yeah.
potentially.
Think
So
about this. If it's true that we need 4 hugs a day for survival, if I find someone not getting 4 hugs a day, it's my moral obligation to save their life and hug them, right? Like it doesn't
that's
matter
just for the minimum, right?
if it's a woman in the locker room or whatever, like what, like if it's a stranger but I know that she hasn't got her 4 hugs in the day, it's not harassment or any, like just think about how absurd that is, right? 4 hugs for survival. Your honor, I was saving her life. like like it gives the immediate lie to this concept. Like this is so dumb.
Do you think, given that you get roughly 10 hugs a day and
A
you
year.
should be getting, a year, sorry, and you should be getting 1,460 hugs a day, do you think the next, or a year, just to like make sure the next time we hang out, I
Oh
give
man,
you, say, 1,450 hugs and you can kind of coast for the rest, you can survive
thanks,
the year
man.
based
You're
on like the
a real
surplus of
friend.
hugs.
Yeah. I wonder if they, it would probably, all my oxytocin would build up. It would probably be toxic levels of oxytocin and serotonin, and that probably wouldn't be good. So I'm sure that Christina
OD
Comaford or
on
whatever,
hugs.
yeah, Christine Comaford, well, she'll write a new article about that now that the COVID craziness is over. She's probably got a follow up to this bad boy. I also thought, just as a little miniature side point, this was written during the COVID paranoia time, but I found it interesting that one of the recommendations was like, let your dirty animal in the bed. Like, oh, you have to make sure your hug buddy observes appropriate social distancing protocols, but go ahead and let this animal that licks its anus in your bed to rub its butthole on your pillow. Like that's just ridiculous.
Oh, that's really funny. Yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like it exists in the cultural ethos somewhere? Have you been told that like babies need to be like
Yeah.
experience physical touch early
Sure.
on or they die?
Yeah, I've
And
heard all that
is that
stuff.
true, or is that am I
No.
just sort of accepting,
I mean, is it
because
is it better than not? Yeah, like it's better for the baby to, be held by the mother and the father and so on. Like there's probably immune system benefits, exposure. Like there's probably some actual physical reasons why that's true. But
yeah,
but on Baby Island, that I like to talk about, where you
yeah,
have babies and you basically separate them from all culture and have them surreptitiously kept alive.
yeah, yeah,
Those
an
those
incubator
babies
type system,
those
they're gonna
babies
live.
would survive. They would survive.
So I don't know if the hug is just it's pulling on all the things I'm talking, like it appears, if you squint and don't look and you don't think, it appears like a positive message and backed by science, because I actually think people just glaze over those parts, but they kind of see it. And maybe I'm picturing the article you read having like um melatonin and bold blue hyperlinked to, like all this stuff's like a little hyperlinked every time there's a sciencey word that you could click on and read more about if you wanted.
There
You
actually
know what I'm
aren't
saying?
there aren't that many of those words, but I'll
A lot
tell
of
you.
advertisements in this article as well.
Well, I have
that you
ad
to
block
scroll
on,
through.
like always.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
the only highlighted words are safety, which links
Okay,
to another Forbes article called "The Three Things All Humans Crave and How to Motivate Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere." Okay, I've not clicked on that. And then there's another one that highlights the word isolation, which links to an article
okay.
called "What Stress Change and Isolation Do to Your Brain." So apparently, this author is just linking to some of her other articles.
Gotcha. I guess I just the point though of this, I'll throw out some science despite it being gobbledygook, despite it being like, look, my knowledge of science is super limited. We literally have a Daniel does science thing, and I still like read that or hear that and go like, come on, that's goofy. That is so goofy. But that passes the sniff test enough to crank out like a
A
clickbait
Forbes
thing.
article.
That's like, because I think the reason they're willing to do that is they go, what's the harm, Daniel? Hugs are good if this gets people to hug a little more. Net positive, and I resist the idea that like you can just haphazardly publish bunk because it reinforces an idea that you find agreeable. Like I resist that.
I do too. I resist it.
Screw hugs. I'm gonna
Screw
see if I can
hugs.
go a year without a hug and see if see. I mean, has there been you might have gone eight months without a hug, and you know.
Oh, yeah, very
sustained.
likely. I think that's likely.
It'd be funny to have like a calendar.
I mean, I
or,
wonder
like, a
where I'm at
timer
right
of days
now.
without hugs. Yeah,
No,
yeah. Like
I haven't been that long without hugs this time because I went home in the middle of the year this year. So
do you think about the hugs? Do you feel nourished by the hugs?
no, I mean, like I said, hugs are nice sometimes.
Can you think of a hug that you did actually find nice that you were like, man, I needed that. Or it was a rough day, and I just, or like,
No.
I hadn't seen my mom in a long time, and we held each other for 20 seconds, and it was just.
No,
Or is it just like a really polite, like, or ritualistic even, right? Like, you want to demonstrate, you don't just want to like go, hey, and then walk past. So
Yeah,
there's a
well,
ritualistic greeting.
yeah, it's a ritual. I don't. Some people seek out hugs. They're feeling down or insecure or whatever, and it makes them feel better and secure to have a hug. I don't know that I've ever experienced that sensation. I've been the giver of hugs, and those hugs make you feel nice for making the other person feel better. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I've felt nice giving a hug to someone who, was crying or feeling really bad or whatever. Like that has felt nice, but that's rare. And
Yeah.
I've never been like, I really need a hug right now. Like that's a foreign concept to me personally. And like
I imagine.
that's why I think like this therapist, this family therapist or whatever, and the author who took this up, like this is a narrow-minded thing that everyone needs, this sort of nourishment in the same way. Like this is like the extrovert bias, that we see, that like everyone thinks that everyone wants to be out partying or have socializing or whatever, and that's not true. Many people don't enjoy that kind of thing, and it's taxing. And it's easy to get in your own head and think that everyone's personality is the same as yours, but that's not the case.
Right.
So
I'm trying to think. I've never thought, oh, I really could use a hug right now. But I've had moments I can think of in which Danielle. Okay, so like I've been in a rotten mood. It's been rough, whatever, and she's just come over and like, I'll call it a hug, like kind of almost.
you don't have to
hold
just
me.
keep
It's
it keep it G-rated. We don't need to know what it actually was. We'll just call it a hug. Wink, wink. I get what you're
She
saying.
she really hugged me.
Go hug
Hug
yourself.
me hard. Hug me all over. She did. She held me, or in a way, and I felt it really soothing and comforting.
Sure, yeah, that's nice.
But it felt like partially because like I didn't need words. I didn't need some sort of logic through a moment, and I was tired, and it was reassuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a form of communication, and it felt slow. It felt like there's something about a hug that slowed my thought. I don't know. It was just like it was
There's the
very
oxytocin.
present.
Oxytocin,
Yeah.
man.
So I mean, so I think
Yeah, I'm
I
not.
think a well placed and timed hug. Yeah, you're not
Yeah,
disputing hugs.
I'm
is
not
the thing.
disputing
It's
hugs.
just-
I'm not anti-hug. Like, yeah, I agree.
I also wonder.
that
I also
hugs can be
wonder
nice.
to what extent, like, let's say that smile thing is generally true. I would actually, I'm guessing here, guess that you, Bennett, are more like that. It would be less. Generally speaking, these things are less effective on you. You're just not manipulated easily either, or influenced as easily. And so I don't. But definitely on this. If I'm trying to figure out how unusual is Bennett in this situation,
I'm probably a little unusual.
You're a little
one.
unusual, but the article is.
Stupid.
But I think I would just say you're a little unusual, but the article still remains stupid, despite you're a little unusual on it. Take on it or whatever.
Yep.
Not take, but like a relationship with hugs.
Or maybe I need to be more open-minded about this. Maybe I need to go get a hug buddy. Just enlist someone, total stranger.
Yeah, can you put it on Craigslist or something?
Yeah, just need a hug buddy. I bet that would go over real well.
Every other Tuesday, you're looking for a
just need
15
20
to 30
second
second hug.
Hug. Hey,
it has to be over 20, but you want it under 30 because you don't want it to be weird. Imagine writing that as your post, but you don't want it to be weird. It has to be under 30. So
I don't
between
want it
20 and 30.
I don't want it to be weird. Stranger hug
And we'll do
buddy.
it in a public area. And you're not asking for like a conversation or much of a relationship here. So literally, we'll meet at the mall outside the Chick-fil-A, 30 paces to the right by that big oversized plant, and we will hug for 20 to 30 seconds, and that's all you want. I would find that thrilling as the same person. I see him every. Just how strange that would be. I'm like thinking like. I'm playing this out. Like, is that worth the effort to try that? I would only need to do it once. I wouldn't actually want it to be a standing thing. One time
you would die.
Enough of the.
You need 4 a day.
Yeah, you set up 4 of these. You're driving for some reason. You haven't put it in the same spot, so you're driving all over town, getting your hugs
Desperately, because if you don't, then you're a goner.
The stakes are high.
Yeah. Well, that's a little entertaining article for your entertainment. So
I appreciate it.
That's all I have.
All right.
Do
Goodbye.
over.